All right, so the first thing right off the bat, cap, max damage cap. I mean, we knew it was coming from the teaser last week, but Legion, Starforce Liberation, Exalts, kind of the staples, right? They've been increasing that every every max damage cap patch has had these three staples as far as the main ways to get max damage cap. And man, did they just blew it up even more, right? Like people are getting four at level 60 Absols, 4 mil max damage cap more times 7, 28 mil cap just from that. Starforce Liberation doubled at the highest level. So it went from 8 mil at the highest Starforce Liberation all the way up to 16. So just think about that. Like huge. Starforce Liberation is one of the best ways to get max damage cap right now. Legion. I mean, if you haven't been doing your Legion at this point, it's on you, right? You kind of know that was always going to be a point of emphasis as far as what Nexon wants you to do to play the game, to do ults. They've had haste events, they have EXP curves, they have all these different things to force you to do ults, to do your Legion. And just even more so now, right? From 3 mil, I think, cumulative-ish to around 6 mil plus now. So, again, that's just free cap for people that are playing the game, that have been around, kind of taking advantage of events and the Kerning Tower buffs, all these types of things. Yeah, Legion. So just think about that, right? People, off these three things, people are getting majority of their max damage cap. Like 28 mil plus 8 mil plus 3 mil. I mean, what is that? 30, 35, 20, 38, almost 40 mil cap from just these three things. And then they added on the fourth was the mythic accessories, right? So things like Gloom Ring, Will Book, Signet, Lotus Mask, Damien Face, whatever it is, Lotus Face, Damien Mask, whatever it is, and the Arc Dawn Pendant, the Arc Pendant. So all these mythic accessories got a boost in max damage cap. Huge, right? So Star Force 10 up to 9 mil per accessory is absolutely huge. I mean, just think about that, right? Some people's Dawn Pendants are 7, 8 are getting free max damage cap from that. And every Star Force obviously is less chance of success, but if you hit that, you're getting way more cap. So people have done the math with Will max damage cap, with Will Souls, all the best in slot stuff. You know, hypothetically, if you got level, if Star Force 10 accessories, you could get over 200 mil max damage cap. Just insane. Just insane. So, kind of the main takeaway from this is there's just a lot of different ways to get max damage cap, right? Exalt, Legion, Liberation, accessories, just playing the game, right? Dawn Pendant, doing your daily arcs, doing your weekly bosses, just accumulating those resources adds up over time, right? And so with the increased drop rate to a lot of these accessories, I think it's very um, helpful. It's very valuable to kind of hold on to those resources. I recommend, like, even more so now, don't craft your gear. Don't waste those primals, don't waste those resources on Lotus Mask, Damien Mask, like Will Book, even the Signet, right? That's kind of a interesting one, but just be aware that drop rates are increased, right? Just play the game, but once you hit it, those extra Star Force attempts using those resources actually is way more beneficial now than ever. And just think about this: they can at any time, any rebalance, buff those, right? They could just give from way more max damage cap that route too. So it just gives them another option to increase max damage cap. So I highly recommend just using your drop rate buffs, doing the weekly bosses, doing the daily boss or the daily arc, and just pray for the drop. It's coming more frequently than you think, and just holding on to it is a game changer. Even if it takes, months and months to get it, it's going to be more worth it to wait and then use those resources that you would to craft it to actually Star Force it up. All right, so the biggest takeaway number 2 obviously the rebalance. So this is something that was very interesting, and how they actually had a big write-up description of what their plans were for the rebalance, why they did it, right? And they, not unsurprisingly, they did it for a few reasons, but mainly to pair with the max damage cap increase. And they mentioned, at the highest level, they wanted people to cap, but they also wanted the mid players to cap, right? There's no point in getting max damage cap if you're not even going to be able to hit it, right? And that's mainly true for surprisingly, the middle tier players, right? That don't have everything maxed out. The end game players are actually capping pretty easily still. Like, for example, my Pally went from 85 mil to 120 mil cap, and I'm still capping majority of my lines unbuffed. So that is, it's just, they wanted to help. Rebalances usually help like lower tier players just hit their cap easier, and so that's usually what they did here. But they also mentioned that they wanted to focus on passive skills and buff skills. So passive skills I like to think of as like dot damage, summon skills, place down skills, sort of thing. So I like to think of like fire poison mages got a big buff to their ignite. Night lords got a big buff to their assassin's mark. Like trifling winds for wind archers, just a few examples. Think of like cannoneers, corsairs for their summon skills that don't hit very hard. Those are skills that didn't cap previously at the previous max damage cap a lot of the times, and so now they wanted to even enhance that, give them an opportunity to hit harder and hit that new cap, right? So those classes actually got a decent buff from it, just from those lines, just from the rebalance. So they really tried to emphasize that to balance out the game. And a lot of people I know are talking about, why did my skills get nerfed? Why did, like Night Lords, Night Walkers, a lot of people are complaining that, their 300% skill damage skills are getting nerfed down to like high 200s or whatever it is. And I think now, if you've tested it out enough, you realize that damage was overkill, right? That was the damage that a lot of those classes had, were because they had clone skills that before those numbers were for the clone cap, before clone cap, right? When they had a lot of damage that was like 20, 30%, 35% of the skill damage, and those weren't even close to hitting cap. But now that they've adjusted that, clone damage is based off of your cap, your main cap. It's a lot easier, right? It's not actually, you don't really didn't need it to be 300% plus. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of Night Lords and Night Walkers are people that got some sort of nerf to their main skills, are realizing, yeah, we don't need that. We're still capping, we're still hitting very hard, and they're getting kind of they're seeing it didn't really make much of a difference. So that is something that I think people complained about a little bit, but realized it wasn't that big of a deal. And then I think this last point is pretty interesting, where they talk about in the short term, some skills are going to be very efficient with their damage, and be probably less effective. However, the change should be compensated for by buffs to other skills and max damage expansion. So it seems like Nexon also has an idea of short term, but also this rebalance was for the look ahead, right? The look ahead mainly for maybe V6, the look ahead maybe for when max damage cap increases more, or we start getting arcane gear, right? Where the emphasis now is on, how, like, they're just planning ahead, right? One thing that I sort of want to make note of, when they mainly talked about common skill buffs, like think of like the blessing skills, things like weapon aura, just they give buffs, extra buffs here and there for party buffs, for class buffs, sorry. If you manually do your skills, like your big cooldowns in bossing, make sure you throw in those blessing skills, those skills like giving final damage and boss attack in like short windows, right? Like 30-second windows, 40-second windows. You want to make sure that you pair those with your biggest skills, because it's good to practice now that you line those up, because those actually do have impact And again, your hardest hitting skills, your biggest burst skills, is majority of your damage. So you want to make sure those are you're getting maximum value out of that. And pairing your blessing skills um, is very important. I think whether it affects it now or down the road, just kind of getting used to that and understanding how the damage is going to work with max damage cap and with skill percentages, skills like that.